we got Brandon Rodwell from R4 Photography. What up, Brandon?
How you doing? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh,
Hey.
not a problem, man. Anytime. I got you on the show because everybody, looks at the social media side of things and sees things from different perspectives when they're not at the race, man. And you're one of those guys who put out some really good content, man. And I wanted to ask you. This is why I wanted to bring you here because there's a lot of guys out there that's putting content, and this is the first time this year me seeing you with your content out there, and it kind of raised my eyebrows because you put out good work. But my question
Thank
for you is, man, you're welcome. My question for you is, how did you get into videography?
Oh, how did I get into it? Well, I mean, I just kind of fell into it a little bit because I've always done photography for the last oh man, I'm 35 now, and right out of high school, I wanted to do photography, and I was lined up to go to school and do that, but I didn't work out. I couldn't get the funding, and then I just took a job, right? So and I think that this could be a big lesson, life lesson for any photographers or anybody really that has a passion to do something that they want to do. But I said I take a year off and I'll get some money, and and then life kind of happened, right? So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm 15 plus years later or something, right? I kind of got drawn back into photography. I just started taking pictures for me. Started doing the social media videos for me, right? And then it's something just kind of dawned on me, and I was like, you know what? I have this amazing camera, and I take photos, but why not do some videos with it too? And it was a huge process to learn that, and I just kind of wanted to create and wanted to do something, meaningful, and I just love it. So, I just do it as much as I can now, and it's a big passion for me.
Like I said, you do good work, and thank you, by the way, for sending me some of those clips I was able to put out there, man. Thank you, I highly thank you for that. And just in those clips alone was just like, man, when I seen your videos, it's like, man, this guy's got good work. I'd love to kind of figure something out with him along the future, And that's when I reached out to you, and my brain's still turning, on how we can do some things and collab together, but that'll be in the near future. But how do you compare? Because, like I said, there's so many media guys out there that's shooting. You got Mitch, you got
Direct motocross.
Direct, you got Throttle Media. There's so many guys that are out there. How do you separate your style compared to others?
Well, I mean, that's something I've thought about too, right? Because there is a lot of media guys, and there's a lot of up and coming, and there's a lot of kids too, and it's cool, and I compare myself a bit, like you do that anyways, like coming from a racing background, like you show up to the track, you look around, you see who's there, you kind of want you want to say, oh, is this guy fast? Like I think I'm faster than him, right? So
Yep.
it's the same way with the camera stuff, but you know, I'm so friendly, and I just love being there and love doing it, that like, I'll come up to anybody that's got a camera. I'll say, hey, what kind of camera you got? Like, oh, want to talk about it, or want to, I'll take your picture. I mean, but to separate myself from everybody else, I think is the best thing, is to be yourself. I mean, there's an aspect of it is like photography and, professionalism, right? And it's hard for me sometimes to find that the right amount of professionalism and the right amount of, myself, right? But that's where, if people, if they hire me, I take their photos, and I give them what they want. I give them the video content, and it is very professional. And I love just getting better at the craft, and having better footage and the technical side of it. But, I love to interject myself and my personality, and I try to do that a lot, like at the nationals, and doing, because everybody has their own style, and I think that's how I maybe separated myself, is that, like, direct motocross is good for info, and anybody that wants to hear a good conversation, and hear about how Tanner Ward did, or what happened. But my aspect of it is something a little different. Like, I'm going to come up to Tanner Ward and ask him about his underwear sponsor, right? So, something a little bit funner, a little bit lighter, and I think that really separates it from the rest, right?
Definitely does, man. I remember I was really into photography, which I still am now, but I don't take as much photos as I used to. And I started taking photography classes in junior high school. But back then, I was taking them just to take them. You know what I mean? Because I was into it, but I was never like mimicking other people. I was always just doing my own thing, trying to separate myself from other people. And and that's the whole point of being an artist, being a videographer, being a photographer, whatever you are in the arts. It's doing what you feel, and putting your passion out there. It'll make you separate you different from others because everybody has different visions than you do.
I
Um,
think that's very, very important when you're dealing with something creative like that, right? And I try not to be like everybody else. I mean, everybody does it too. And you look at the trends, and you wanna be up with it and know, right? But at the end of the day, I just try to be myself, and do what I want. For me, and being so busy trying to make it and get paid gigs, it's hard because I don't get to make a lot of the content that I want to make, that I think people will want to watch. And I mean, it's got to be hard for kids today too, because you post a video, and you want to see it do well. You want to see the likes and the views go up. But for me, I haven't really chased that. Like, I haven't tried to go viral or do anything to get big hits. Like, obviously, like, I want to look at what works and what people want to watch. But for me, it's just about trying to do what I like, and inject my personality into it, because I think I love it when I show up to the track or something, and I see somebody comes up to me and they're like, "Hey man, like, I totally watched your video and I love it. I loved it. It was great." And that's what keeps me to be myself, and keep going with that, right?
exactly, exactly. There's been times where I show up to the track and guys are just thanking me, man. I love your podcast. Keep them going, and just those little pieces of good information and feel good, comments makes you want to push and do your craft even more and be out there even more, man. I totally get where you're coming from. Um, let's say you're at the track, dude. Like, how the hell do you set up for your shots, man? Like, do you have something already in the game plan in the works before you set up, or do you go out there and kind of freestyle and be like, you know what, this is a good place to set up. This is where I'll do my shots today. How do you set up for your shots?
Well, I mean, there's a couple different ways that I shoot too. Like, I went to a lot of the AMO races, and they had good turnouts this year, right? And and it's higher end racing, right? People are there and just show up. It's competitive, right? I mean, so they want the media for the brands. I did some stuff for OGs, and some of the pros and stuff too, right? So you know, when I decide kind of what I'm doing, like, I'll have a shot list, or I'll have a list of who I got to get. I'll compare that to the schedule, right? Um, and I'll try and run some. It depends what they want. Photos or video. A lot of people are digging the videos, right? So, I'll try and get photos out of the way. Um, and the thing I noticed is that, and why I decided to do the business up this year and do more and update the gear, is because to switch on the fly from photos to video, to get that cinematic, that slow motion, that video, it's tough to do it quick. So I bought gear that would really allow me to kind of do that.
Mhm.
Um, but setting up, I run an ND filter. I have different ND filters that I put on the lens, right? So that I can when it's super bright out, I can still maintain my aperture. And I think that it really shows that, like, I've just taken so much attention to sort of, like, try to get those cinematic slow motion shots. Um, but usually when I roll into the track, ammo starts pretty early. So it starts like 7:15's riders meeting or something. Like, I think that they're on the track like right at 8. And if it's a 2-hour drive, You know, it's hard. And for me, I just want to get as much content when I'm there as much as possible, because if you have a guy, you know, and he's doing 4 motos, and there's other people in there, like it's hard to run around this track, right? You know, it's, you know, I feel like sometimes too, like in the heat of the moment when I'm just like, you know, snapping shots at the beginning and at the end, like those can sometimes be the best ones too, you know,
Yeah.
like when it's just sort of candid stuff, right? But that's at a typical AMO race. And then, you know, it's hard to make it to the practice track. I found this year, it's hard to align with these riders of when I'm going to be there, when they're going to be there. Like I do work a full-time job. Um, you know, I try to get time off, but I had some time off in the spring so I could do the Walton Kawasaki shoot and the Gopher Dunes media day and stuff. We did a really cool video for Gopher Dunes too, where we had the guys in suits, and they were driving the old car into the shop and then ripping on the suits.
Mhm.
So I had some time off for that, and you know, I want to say that I wish I could say like when I roll up to do stuff, it's super organized, but it's a lot of heat, like of the moment, and just like working on the fly, dealing with the sun, dealing with, you know, riders or the talent that don't necessarily know. Like if you're trying to do a stage shoot like that, where you have the riders and you're trying to talk to Jacob Piccolo and be like, hey, can you like adjust your sunglasses like this real cool, like, you know what I mean? Because he's not necessarily been in it in the setting like that before, and a lot of these people are, I got to say to him like, okay, I need you to pull the clutch lever in, like, you know, slow, and then set up the shot, because, you know, doing this stuff at a race, you know, they just race it, and I try to stay out of their way, and you get the shots right, but it's a different ball game. Like, you know, I wish I could say when I rolled in to do that shot, like those shots, we had a list, like, and it was like, okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, but like a lot of it was like working on the fly, right?
Okay.
So I mean, I think the best thing you can do though, like, is plan, right? But I want to do more of that, and I want to do more like setup videos. Like when we did the video at Walt Kawasaki, we did a video where the bikes were in the garage and the door came up, and then we had them, and the lighting was all nice, and you know, that was just an idea that Brett Lee had. He's like, hey, well, what if we open the door and the bikes are there? And then, you know, I was like, that would look cool. Let's do it like this. And then we set the lighting, and it kind of just came together, right? So I find that, like, if there's a tip that I can give any like videographers, and like I'm super, I love talking to people. So if anybody wants to shoot me a message and they want to say, hey, what kind of gear do you use, or hey, what do you think about this, or how do I get this right? Like, I just messaged a kid, I think it was Scrub TV, the kid, you know, he's doing some cool stuff with Shorzy,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm 138, and like that's awesome, you know, that he's got the opportunity to hang out with those guys and do some shots. And I just say, awesome work, you know. But you know, for that is like, if you have time to sit down and you know what you're going to do, and you write out a shot list and you say, hey, I want to get, you know, these guys doing this jump, and then I'm going to go over and we're going to do this, or we're going to get the rad shroud, I'm going to make sure I get that shot. You can plan it all out. That's the best way to do it. But for me, a lot of times I don't know where we're going to be or what we're doing or who's going to be there. So, you know, it's just like, grab as much content as you can, and then make it work in post. Like, you get back to the laptop or the desktop, and you just, like, you know, work through it. And usually I can make it work. Like, that's it in its own right.
Exactly. That's what's up, man, because you need days like that where sometimes you need a little extra advice to push your shots through, like the garage coming up. And I watched all those shots that you shot through Walton, and they were all smoking really good shots, man. So those ideas, sometimes you need couple extra ideas to stimulate another idea to keep those shots going and rolling. But if you can give, like, say, a youngster, man, that's coming into videography, doesn't know too much about cameras and all that,
Yep.
what's a good starting camera for someone who wants to get into it, but doesn't want to, break the bank going out buying these $3,000, $4,000 cameras just for the body, now no
Yeah.
lens.
Well, yeah, even that, like this camera here is my backup camera, and it's $2,300, and the lens is even more, right? And the camera we're recording this on was $3,500, right? So that's a lot of serious cash, and I pulled the trigger on that, and I didn't have to. And this is my advice for anybody wanting to get into videography or photography or anything, is that buy the camera that you can afford, and then work the craft and work at your skill. You know what I mean? Like, buy a camera that you can afford. You don't want to buy a super expensive camera and then not want to take it out, because if you do take it to the dirt bike track, it is going to get dirty, and you are going to want to get right down in there, like right by somebody's front tire, and that that could get dirt in there. It could wreck your lens or anything, right? So you don't want to be afraid to use it. But one of the big things is like, you can get away with having a not so great camera body and a really good lens.
Mm-hmm.
It's better to do that. Like, the glass is more important. I mean, that being said, depending on if you can shoot certain frame rates, like, this camera, my main camera is only a 24 megapixel. I sacrificed that because I needed the video aspect of it, right? So, going out first, like, you want to get into it, is like, get a camera and learn it. Get the one that you can afford. Don't idolize gear, and don't go, oh, I really need to have a Sony, or Canon, whatever. Like, I put off doing video for a long time because I didn't think that I could do it on the camera I had. But when I decided to actually get into it, it was like, like, I can be making that. And even that, like, you can use your phone. Like, it's not going to be as good, but, like, you can get, like, if you edit it and you learn about it, like, you can get super good shots on that. Now, if I don't know too much about camera models and stuff, but they are coming out with some pretty good ones. I mean, you can get used ones, you can pick them up, right? I mean, I buy most of my stuff used, to be honest, because I don't want to pay full price, and I don't want to pay the tax. But that can be risky, because you can be buying something that is not necessarily in good shape, or you don't have a warranty, right?
Exactly.
But for me, I go to Henry's Camera Store. They have many chains around, and there's usually good qualified people there. But reach out. Like, I'm happy to talk to anybody and suggest something. Would tell me your budget, and tell me what you do. But the main thing that I can stress is don't worry about getting a good camera or how expensive it is. Buy the one you can afford, and then work with it, and message people like me and say, how can I do this? I'm having a problem with this thing. I still do that to this day. Like, I don't have it all figured out, and there's a lot of stuff that I want to work on too. So
That's funny that you say that, because I was previously shooting with Canon stuff, and I shoved it for maybe 5 years into my closet, stopped shooting for a while, just helping the kids grow and develop. I would take it out here and there, do pictures of them just around the house. But when
yep,
I got back to the moto scene, I bought a whole new camera, and it was a video camera. It doesn't take photos.
nice,
It's strictly video. And
okay,
it reflects on what you were talking about, learning the camera. I've taken that thing to the track several times, but I'm still trying to figure that thing out as I go along, because it's way different than what I was shooting from before and going from photos to video. So that's the problem that I'm trying to transition right now, getting used to that thing.
yeah. So one thing that I messed up from the start, like, that is photos and videos. Like, even though they share the same thing, is like, they are also completely different.
Yes.
Like, you know if you come into shooting video with the same mindset as a shooting a photo, like it's totally different, right? Like it's not going to work. And that was a big thing for me, is just learning on what I needed to do to set up my shutter speed, my aperture, and my ISO. So like, you know, I found the information out for myself. Like I think if you can get with a buddy and you guys can do it together, then that's two minds working together too, right?
Absolutely.
And I wish I had a photographer buddy to follow me around, right? Getting shots of me and I get shots of him, and it would be great, right? Especially riding too, right? You know,
Oh yeah.
somebody asked me for I needed to supply some footage for this thing of me riding this year, and I like literally have none. Hey, like just because I've been shooting so much of everybody else, you know, I haven't been able to get any of me. So we went out to Gopher Dunes, and we got some with my buddy McMedia, Connor, and I made, you know, I make friends with everybody at the track. Like I love talking to other photographers and just, you know, just learning, like, you know, is the best thing you can do.
Don't be afraid to change, my friend. Nothing ever stays the same. Look at our wings, they're black as can be. Black as the sky.
So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, for sure, you can find me at R4 Photo on Instagram, or, you know, R4 Photography on Facebook. Brandon Rodwell, search my personal.